I'm Timika Shafeek-Horton and very happy to be here today. Although I'm fairly accustomed to speaking in front of people on a variety of topics, I have to tell you that getting here today was quite the mental trip for me. I thought for weeks about what I would talk about. I thought about it in the way to work in my car. I thought about it in church, and I asked a few people who knew me well what I should talk about given my strengths, my weaknesses, and my audience. During this process, of course, my job came up as a topic. That would be easy enough, but the really good stuff, the stuff you'd most want to hear about, I can't talk about without the risk of losing my job. I need my job. And so that topic was off the table. The people I asked for suggestions without fail directed me to my soft skills. And I have to tell you, talking about the soft skills I may have was not particularly appealing to me. You all are a pretty formidable audience. You represent the best and brightest in banking and law and philosophy, the arts, everything. So given 7 minutes of your time, I wanted to talk about something significant or grand. But after all my thinking and pondering, I came to what was initially a fairly disappointing realization. I'm not an expert on anything particularly significant or grand. And even worse, I don't even have particularly grand or significant ideas on even an infrequent basis. Although I have not dwelled on this realization a lot in my adult life, this fact has not escaped me. And when I have let myself linger on this thought for any significant period of time, I have to tell you, it has bothered me. I love big thinkers. They're interesting, and they're often asked and sought after to speak at events like this. I'm going to share with you a time, or 10, that I've had these thoughts. The first 10 times I had these thoughts was each year after spending a day interviewing candidates for the Morehead Award. In large part, the students who make it to the regional or the semifinal interviews, those kids, young adults, are phenomenal. I'm sure many of them are destined for great things. Many of them have extraordinary minds. And most years, I left those interviews thinking, goodness gracious, how in the world did the foundation find me to be worthy? I've had similar thoughts in connection with certain jobs or certain aspects of certain jobs I've had. I worked as a nuclear regulatory attorney for about 3 years, and I often thought, what was the person who gave me this job thinking? I often sat in meetings, furiously taking notes, so that when the person left my office, I could go figure out what the hell they were talking about. And now I work as a state regulatory attorney, and I know this sounds pretty straightforward, but it's really not. The math, the regulatory accounting, the rate designs, I'm like, who even knew this kind of stuff existed? And I had worked for Duke for, 8 or so years before I took this current job. Well, by now, those of you who don't know me may be wondering whether I have self-esteem issues. Those of you who do know me are wondering where the real Timika is, because if you know me, you know my self-esteem is just fine. It's really quite healthy. However, as I get older and even more confident in the knowledge of who I am, I have become more introspective about what I am not and how what I am not matters or doesn't matter. Comparing myself to those of you in this room, my life should not seem extraordinary. I have a loving family, a good job, I'm involved in my community, French fries are my favorite food, and I don't get to go on vacation as often as I'd like. But if I measure the life I have against all of the things I am not, the process of getting to this 7 minutes has led me to the conclusion that my life is indeed extraordinary, and therefore what I am not doesn't matter. At least it doesn't to me. At this point, I know I should list for you all of the things that I am not to prove to you that my life is extraordinary, but I only have 7 minutes, and giving you that list would be a little embarrassing, and then you too might wonder how I got the Morehead. So you will just have to believe that I am not a lot of things. I have always been quite satisfied with my life, but taking the time to consider that I am not a lot of things, yet I still have an extraordinary life, is incredibly uplifting. These 7 minutes may turn out to be the most mundane of your day, but the process of getting to this 7 minutes, for me, has led to even greater life satisfaction. That probably was not Megan's intent when she asked me to speak, but what can I say? Knowing that I'm not so many things, but that I have still found my way to where I am, erases the initial disappointment I talked about earlier. I believe that most, but not all, of what I am not is no failing on my part. I believe I'm leading the life I was intended to lead. And that's probably the even bigger get out of this for me. Now, I try to be conscious about things not being all about me. My success rate on that varies because remember, I'm not a lot of things. But let me, in my last 30 seconds, get to what's in this 7 minutes, or maybe less. I'm probably talking fast, but let me get to what's in this for you. Maybe not much for most of you, but for those of you who are out there leading the life you believe you were intended to lead, whether that's as a nuclear engineer, a physician, a stay-at-home parent, or a lawyer like me, I hope that from time to time, when you are questioning whether your life is full enough or big enough, whatever enough, you will take some time to think about all that you are not. Because I know I'm not alone in not being certain things that I think it would be really cool to be. But I hope you will think about the things you are not and measure that against the things you are and the things you have achieved, and like me, be uplifted in that realization. Thanks.